This is the very first Point by Patrol podcast. Ben, you guys probably recognize me from the channel anyways. And the topic of discussion today is getting back on the horse after a total loss on the track, after a bad crash. And I have two people here that have experienced the same as I have, and I'm still personally working through some of the mental strain, so to speak, and especially when it comes to certain areas of the same track where I did crash, and how that affects me mentally, and how I'm basically taking it easy as I go through there. But I'll introduce the crew, and guys, please talk about yourselves. I mean, you guys both have some pretty serious accolades. Let's start with James. So I'd like to introduce James Avs.
I'm James. Where to start? I'm out in Seattle now. Been there for about 2 years, so frequent the Ridge and Portland and ORP and all that good stuff. But originally over from the East Coast, so some of you may have seen me out at VIR and some at Point and Dominion and all that good stuff. New to the FL5, about a year in it. It's been awesome, but before that, spent a lot of time in an A90 Supra, where I really cut my teeth on a bunch of stuff. So I don't really know what else to say about myself, man.
I mean, that's fine, but I mean, you I believe you've won some awards for racing, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I guess so. What this year? I took the enthusiast class, front wheel drive record for global time attack at the Ridge, and P1 in class. I have a bunch of other records on the East Coast. With the Super and SCCA Max 2. What do I have still? Carolina Motorsports Park, Road Atlanta, Dominion, NJMP Lightning, and I think Summit Point Jefferson. I used to have Maine and Pit Race, but those finally fell. But yeah, some good stuff.
So it's probably safe to say in that point that you're a pretty fast guy. So,
Maybe I've had some good cars though. They make it easy.
yep. Let's move on over to Jason. This is Jason Lewis. Say hello, everybody. Jason, tell us about yourself. Tell us about some of your track accolades.
Track accolades. Um, I started tracking, God, I guess we're working on 5 years ago now. I grew up like a racing fan, but never really had the means to do it. And then my buddy locally, I'd gotten the Type R in 2017. It's a couple years later, and I met him here. Some of you might know him from social media. Byron Anderson. He lives in Reno also. And he's like, "Oh, do you ever go to the track?" And like, what do you mean? Like, I've gone and watched races, but I've never didn't know that was a thing. You know what I mean? So yeah, once I realized that was a thing, I was like, "Yep." And he told me, "Oh, there's autocross too." And I went to autocross one time. I just rode with him shotgun, and yeah, I was like, "Yep, definitely want to do this." And but I went to the track first, and that was in I guess it was in March of 2020. So like right before COVID, or like right when it was kind of starting to be a thing. And yeah, did the track day, and it went well. Went pretty well. For my first ever track day, I know a lot of the NorCal guys were like, "This is your first time ever?" Yeah. So then I got in this major accident, not related to the track. A lady ran a red light, and it was bad. It kind of put me out of commission for a bit. I ended up going back to the track almost exactly a year after that. That was in April of 2020. And that was definitely full bore COVID. My wife couldn't even come see me in the hospital. It was really kind of a weird time, and for everybody, but especially in that scenario. And yeah, so I went back to the track a year after that, back to Thunder Hill. My first event was at Thunder Hill East. Second event was at Thunder Hill East. At this point, Michael Baxey was becoming pretty prominent, and he was there. Miguel in this area, everybody knows him. He used to have the Thunder Hill record. And yeah, I went like 201, the first time 206, 201, and then just kind of, they were like, "Holy cow." And the next time I go out there, I don't know, in that time, I ended up getting the Thunder Hill record. I think at the time it was 157, like a second under. And in that space of time, I went to Laguna a few times, and ended up tying the Stig, JDM, I think is his handle, and they made the wheels. Titan 7 made the wheels. I tied his time my second time at Laguna, and then eventually kind of got it by myself. And then went to Sonoma. That did not go well. That's going to be a part of this conversation. Didn't go well the very first time I went there. And then the second time I went there, which was this past year, I was able to get the record there as well. So I have, I guess you could say, the three prominent Northern California tracks, Laguna, Sonoma, Thunder Hill, was able to secure those.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
so that's where I'm at in terms of accomplishments.
so chassis record, as far as I understand, so far at Laguna Seca.
Yeah, that's my understanding as well. My unless something's happened that I'm not aware of, I've got the chassis record at Laguna, at Sonoma, and at Thunder Hill East, and I'm like 100th of a second. I'm not kidding you, 100th of a second behind at Thunder Hill West, the shorter track. I was a second ahead of pace, but kept running into a Miata. It's a tiny little track, so that was a bummer. I wanted that one too, but yeah, I'm pretty proud of that, honestly. But I don't know. Somebody might take that thing tomorrow, so you never know what's going to happen.
That's the risk you take. But I mean,
Yeah,
all things,
it's part of the fun of it all.
it is part of the fun of all of it. But you know, as far as I know, based on modification lists that I had presently on the car, I also hold the chassis record for the FL5 at VIR. And now this is based off of some bullshit lap meta stuff, but I have not even run across anything that was faster on YouTube. And I look just to kind of see where I'm at. But
we all do, man. We all everybody. I don't know.
So,
now it's like you have a pretty good idea.
But it was part of that same exact session where I crashed. So I did. Yep. So I did my absolute best on track, chasing a guy in a white Porsche. So follow the white rabbit, to me, it is superstition now. You know, like if the car is white, don't follow it, just leave it alone. But you know, let's dig a little bit into that, I guess. So I mean, I was going as hard as I could, and I thought I thought I had a lot of talent, a lot of skill going into it. And looking back at my YouTube videos, I was a wreck. Like it was going to happen. My hands were all over the steering wheel. I wasn't keeping 9 and 3. I was ignoring the sounds that my tires were making. I was just wheeling the car as hard as I could until the crash. And the
Until
tires,
you couldn't.
yep, until the tires gave up on me, basically. And I was tired too. Shouldn't have been out there in the first place. And I really felt like I had this vendetta to, because the session before I passed him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he passed me this next session. I was like, nah, I'm getting that guy back. It was
Yeah.
being a little bit too competitive about it, and that's where it bit me in the ass. And now, especially in that section at VIR, I haven't gotten it back yet. And that's really been the hardest thing. Like there's the old Ben, and I'm fairly certain at this point, the old Ben has died. There's this version of new Ben, and it's like, where do they meet? Because there's got to be some give and take with that. Like I want to get it back. I want to be more aggressive on track. But there are certainly sections now that I sacrifice. And that's something that I wanted to talk with you guys about. You know, that's just kind of where I'm coming from. And for all three of us, I think it's safe to say that it takes a lot of courage, especially when family is involved, or girlfriends or significant others, whatever it might be, wives. You know, everyone's got an opinion on the whole thing. And, you know, my mom said, nope, you're not going back out there. My dad said, nope, I'm never riding with you again. And my girlfriend said, if you don't buy a Hans device, I will not permit you back out on track. but still supported me getting back out there. And my friend Chris was ultimately the first guy to sit right seat with me to help me get back out there. Now he's retired military and scared of nothing, but I still appreciate that he did that. So that's kind of my piece, and I want to hear from you guys. Who wants to go first?
You popped up on camera first, so
Looks
you're
like
up.
James has got it.
James
I'm
is
up.
well, it was you first, but then James spoke and it popped up on him. So whoever wants to go
Okay,
can go.
I'll defer to James. I'll let him choose.
All right, I'll just start talking. Um, yeah, it just mine happened back in August of 2020. I just scooped a an incredible deal on an A90. It was like Memorial Day sale. Everyone was trying to get rid of the 2020s because they announced the 21s early with the extra power, and like the suspension was fixed, even though it was never really a problem. So I got brand new car, COVID pricing. It was like a 3.0 premium. It was like 46,000. You can't see a super for like 60 anymore. Finally bought something nice and new, PPF the whole car. I was stoked. Did a couple like track cross events first, get used to the car. I was coming from a BRZ that was supercharged, but just still didn't really have any torque. So I was like, oh, this thing's gonna be fast, it's gonna be a little bit scary. It was not. Car was amazing, right? Planted, stable as could be, on stock tires, on 71Rs. Like, it was just perfect. Ran a couple events at Summit, Maine. Everything went well. Went down the VIR for a 2-day event in August, which is like just the worst time to go to VIR, right? It's just hot and miserable and terrible. First day went well, hit my goal for the stock car. And then, it happened on the first day. So first day started off really well. And then the organization has like this 2-hour kind of open track session, for anyone can go out, come on and off as you please, which is usually super cool. But I was kind of like, I'm done for the day. Like, I hit what I wanted to do. Like, I'm pretty tired. And then my buddy was like, come on, like, there's nobody out there. Like, let's just go. Like, we have 2 hours of open track. Let's just do it. Like, we'll just go out for a couple laps and then call it a day. I'm like, fine. Right. Rule number 1, when you're done and tired, if you hit your goal, like, just stick to that. Everything just goes wrong after that point, right? Went out, car felt good, everything was going well. Was coming under the bridge, going up through the climbing S's, and I saw this. It wasn't a white Porsche, but it was a navy blue one. So like, don't chase the 911, right? Looked like I had a ton of room, kind of coming up to it until after turn 9. It was like on its bumper, like closed the gap way too fast that I wasn't expecting, but I should have been able to gauge that it wasn't moving that quick. But I just committed too much to the S's. Went through South Bend really like real close. And they went off like full over the curbing into the dirt, kicked it all up. And like, all I saw were the taillights dancing. And I hooked it left to try not to like T-bone this car or whatever it may be. Instead of just kind of sticking with it. It was just the wrong split-second decision, right? And that kind of took me down, cross track into the inside tire wall. Hit driver's side, car spun, then nosed into the wall. Wasn't a super, super heavy impact, but the airbags went off. The whole side impact airbag went off. At least the front one, the steering wheel one didn't go. Kind of sat there, looking around, and was just covered in dust. And was just like, shit. Then the car starts calling 911 or whatever and like won't shut up. And I'm like, no, false alarm. I don't know why it went off. And then it keeps calling. Luckily, I had my phone in my pocket, right? I texted my wife and told her what was going on, because when black flags come out, like, anyone that's out there is like, if someone's on track, you're going to freak out about that. So I just sat there waiting for the tow truck to come scoop me up. And as I'm sitting in the tow truck on the way back, because they have to bring me like medical and all that crap, right? Like, you guys all gone through that. sitting there texting my buddy back at the shop that I was grabbing my parts from. I'm like, hey, we need to cancel that stuff. And he's just like, oh no, what happened? I'm like, you'll find out soon enough. But yeah, it was a bit of a day, right? The automatic cars with fancy transmissions and electronics make for a fun challenge of getting onto the trailer. Luckily, it recently bought a Tundra, and my wife drove that down separately. So we were able to kind of run up to the U-Haul up in Danville and grab the trailer and bring it over. And then the battle began of how to get that on the trailer. Super doesn't let you turn it back on when you blow the airbags. There's like a fuse on the battery that pops, and so you have to like hot wire the battery. Someone I knew how to do. And then I had, I don't know, like 8 degrees of tow out on the back left. And so the car tried to crab walk up the trailer ramps. It was just the whole deal. And then it started pouring rain. It was just amazing. Just the perfect day. But yeah, I mean, Ben, you want to just get into like the recovery process of that, or am I even on the right page? I can just babble forever.
Well, I mean, yeah, man. Is it still sticking with you now? Granted, you don't live in the area anymore.
Yeah.
So have you been back to that track since?
I have, yeah. So I it was like beginning August. We got the car back up. The friend actually that helped hotwire the battery had another friend that ran a shop up in West Virginia. So Sunday morning we got up on the road and brought it up there. Kind of figured out what was next. But yeah, by mid-September, we replaced the Supra with another one. This time it was a launch edition. A friend was getting rid of it because he was updating to a fancy refraction blue one. And so we grabbed that, and I was a little nervous through the whole process. But like my first time actually back on track was riding shotgun with someone else. Like the event or two before I was going to go, we were at a track cross event at Summit Point in Shenandoah, which if neither of you have driven before or seen, it's not really a super well-known one. Summit Point has like 3 different circuits on it. It's one of the ones they use for a lot of test driving and testing. There's like RAM sites and all that. It's used for a whole bunch of different stuff, but it doesn't really flow super well, but it has like every technical type of corner you can imagine. So like, and the pavement's all over the place. And so it's a good equalizer. But one of the cool features of that track is that it has kind of a replica of the carousel on the Nürburgring. So it's a banked corner you kind of dive into and then swoop up around. I was riding with my buddy in his ZLE, and we fully jumped. You'll see a bunch of pictures if you ever see cars in the air from a place in West Virginia. It's this track. Like you go off the jump, you go 4 wheels in the air, car hits the ground, hit the brakes, and then you basically just have to dive in and hope that you get caught into the bowl. And so we hit that hard. And my first memory was like we were about to wreck again. I was full on over the top of that carousel while like half the car was still in it. And he stuck it and we were good. But I was like, shit, maybe this wasn't the best first decision. I'm going to get back in the car. But I realized that was a little bit scarier than what happened to me when I was driving. But we picked up the new car and I kind of eased into it. I was a little nervous. I did another like track cross event just to kind of like putz around without anyone else around me, like A to B sprint, not really pushing it. I also needed the points in that event to get the championship for that series. So I kind of pushed myself to drive it a little bit. But I was a little uneasy. But the next event was VIR. So like the really like first full track day I did was back at VIR. So I had to kind of really address that fear immediately. And I think it was super helpful. I didn't have a whole lot of time to ponder on it too much. I really just had to get back out there. And I was slow through South Bend the first couple times. Like it was just, I don't want this to go wrong again, right? Like you make one wrong move there and the car goes inside. Like you watch the pros do it. I think I watched the IMSA race like a couple weeks after I wrecked in one of the hypercars or the LMDH or whatever they were called back then. Did the exact same thing. And I was like, all right, cool. Like it's not just me. The pros or whatever do it too, right?
It happened to my very first instructor on the very first weekend that he was instructing me in a BRZ.
Yeah. It's I was going through it slow, probably 70, 75, whatever, right? Like not trying to push those 85, 90s, 95 plus times. But we worked up to it. It was just like trying to measure the consistency in a way where like we weren't trying to brake super hard and over panicking. It was kind of just like, all right, we'll work through it. Just find the speeds that work without the extra inputs. And it came back. It definitely came back. It took, the full 2 days to really get comfortable with it. But then I was back in, I think it was like early March. Yeah, it was like early March 2021. It was SCCA Time Trials National Tour event there. And it was a wild weekend. It was cold. Like real cold. I mean, like frost on the gators and the climbing S is cold.
That's dangerous.
Dude, it was wild. It was wild. So first day was a little bit warmer, wasn't so bad. Like everything was good, sending it, but still like figuring out the Supra. I was like, now I had aero on and everything, and like scrubbing in fresh tires. And I have every excuse in the book as how I lost by 1,000th of a second. But here we are, or 100th. I can't do the math anymore. But it was wild. It's like 3 stages of points, and I somehow lost by a fraction. But I was against a really good driver, so it's cool. But we did the track cross setup again. That's like part of SCCA Time Trials Nationals. Does sometimes some of the events, some of them not, but they do track sprint, track cross, A to B sprint on the track. For this one, it was we started just before turn 4, and then it wrapped up at the timing at the flag tower at South Paddock. And so we were out there 8 o'clock, 8:30, I don't know. It was early. The sun wasn't really out, and there was frost everywhere. And they put the fastest cars out first instead of and the ones that were on slicks and everything else, which was a whole interesting experience. That got reversed in the future instances on the cold mornings.
As it should. Yeah, as it should.
I really just had to send it, right? Like on yokes, which at least warm up quick, like that was a full send through South Bend in the freezing cold with frost everywhere. And it was kind of back. So I think really like the big piece is to just like, you got to face that fear. You got to get back in the car, right? The longer it's the same as like getting back on the horse, right? Whatever it is. If you take too long to get back, I think it's just gonna be harder. If you get back in it sooner than later, right? You kind of remember how things were and how they are supposed to be done, and you can kind of adapt a little bit quicker. Even without wrecking, anytime I've ever had like a full 4 off from doing something stupid or whatever else, right? Like the next couple times to the corner, like feeling that, like, what did I do wrong? How do I not do this again? I don't want to do it again. Like I'm a little spooked, but you just gotta keep going. If not, you're just gonna kind of keep building up that fear of it. And
yeah, it's like a scab that keeps growing, basically. Yeah.
You gotta rip it off.
Yeah. I'm not there yet. Now, I mean, you've had some more time separation, it sounds like, just based on the years than I have. So, I mean, I wrecked this year.
Yeah.
Last year, I guess, just a couple days ago, but March.
So within a calendar year.
Yeah.
Yeah, within a calendar year.
To be fair, yours was
aggressive.
Far more aggressive and dramatic than I kind of had a tap with the wall that it totaled the car, but like I had a couple banged up bruises and stuff and some burns from the airbag, but like I didn't roll. Like that's a whole different challenge to get over.
Yeah, I don't ever want to do that again.
I wouldn't wish that on anyone. Hey, at least we know the car's safe.
I was shocked. I mean, I didn't know there was a ditch down there. So anytime you're in classroom at VIR, they're like, if you go off at turn 10, just go into the grass and to the right so that you don't spin backwards into the tire wall on the left. Right?
Yep.
And I was like, okay, so it's turn 9. Grass is safe. They told me that grass is safe because there's no tires out in grass.
Yeah.
So I completely lose it. I mean, if you watch on the video, I wasn't even on the gas and the car didn't even slow down. And I was going up a hill, which means the tires were completely greased out. And they're probably, even if I did save it, so to speak, I'm not sure what that save would have looked like either. Certainly probably better than how it happened. But so I'm going through this hill and you could feel the car listing side to side and the steering was non-responsive. It's like you're just along for the ride at this point. And then I saw the ditch and like a bunch of comments on the YouTube video, like, oh, what was he reaching for with his right hand? Hey, you idiot. I was reaching for something to hold on to because I knew
shit was about to go down.
I thought I knew that I was about to die, and the only thing that I could do to prevent that at that point was to find another brace point. And so, I wasn't looking for an e-brake. There were a few comments on there like, oh, he was looking for the e-brake. No, I wasn't looking for the e-brake. I was looking for something to hold on to. And it was about to be the seat bolster, but then I impacted before I could even grab the seat bolster because I was going to hold that seat bolster as tight as I could to keep my limbs in the car. And when I was talking to the officials after they came and scooped me up, they said that at one point in time, the car was 20 feet in the air.
Jeez.
Holy shit.
So
That's crazy.
Yeah, it impacted that berm. And this is based on the speed that the car thought it saw in the video. But the vehicle speed sensors at that point, with all like everything that was going on, who knows if they were actually right. It said 63 miles an hour. It felt a bit faster than that. But the car landed
Did
on
you
its.
have the Garmin? Did you have the Garmin connected?
That connection went bad 2 laps
Oh, because
prior.
it.
Yeah. So all that Garmin recorded was blackness. So if you look at my 209 video, the reason that I had to overlay it is because it had lost its video feed. So it had
Right.
lost.
I was thinking, man, you could have maybe got the speed from that, but yeah.
It didn't pick it up. But the
Didn't.
car landed on all four, and all I remember was I'm getting out of this damn thing. So I hit the seat belt, and I got a side curtain airbag over here, like all in my face, and I had to bend it out of the way to open the door, and then I rolled out of the car and threw the helmet off, kind of in one like motion. And first thing I did was text my girlfriend because they red flagged
Yeah.
the whole thing. Texted her and said, I totaled the car and I sent that. And then I sent, I'm fine. And that was the biggest problem. I didn't send it in one condensed text. So she didn't know what to think. She didn't know where to go. She was panicking. And like, of course, there's a delay with sending a text message. It's like, hey, I totaled the car. Pause. I think I'm all right though. Either way, they were pretty Johnny on the spot to get to me, and they got me to the little VIR tent or whatever, little medical center, and from there it just my mind started to wander. It's like, am I concussed? Like I was feeling a lot of pain. I was already driving out there with some pretty bad nerve stuff going on in my right arm that was painful, and immediately after the wreck happened, it was like times 10. So I'm sitting in there as like, is this going to be one of the things where like I'm alive right now, but I walk away from this and just die at my house? And so that kind of stuck in my head a little bit, but enough about me. Jason, why don't you tell us about what happened with you?
There's actually 3 stories.
Okay.
Yeah, I've always, I don't know, always, I've told people that it really is the reason I'm good is also the same reason that I've wrecked. And it's because up till recently, and I'll talk about recently kind of at the end, I'll build up to it. But I've honestly been pretty fearless in the car. And I say that on one hand with pride, but then on the other hand, it's the reason I'm in this video. But yeah, I really just go out there and I'm like, I don't even think about it. I'm not even thinking about anything except for in my mind, it's like attack. Just go for it. Just try to make it happen. And obviously there's like a build up to that. You're trying to like, not from out of pit lane. I'm not ripping out of there, but I get into this mode mid session where everything feels like it's flowing. And yeah, I'm trying to pass that car. I'm trying to take 0.2 of a second off of this corner, whatever I can do the whole time. And but anyway, so that's pretty much been since day one, which I don't know. I don't have any reason to be like that. I think I just had this, on one hand, internal confidence, and on this other hand, like probably it's like just a raw competitiveness, and all of your probably safer mindsets like just don't even exist when those things take over. And you could always look at things after the fact and say, man, maybe that wasn't the smartest thing, but it doesn't even like cross my mind. So anyways, I say all of that because
follow the white rabbit.
Yeah. Or like in my case, like pass the white rabbit and then go get the other one.
Exactly.
That's all I'm thinking. And it's not even, and you're not racing wheel to wheel, but we'd be lying if you don't see a car out there and you don't think, I'm gonna get that dude. Like, and then I want to get that guy. And part of it's like that, I've been uber aggressive when there's nobody out there ahead of me because I'm just trying to get a time. I'm like, I got to make this happen, trying to hit every mark right on the money, have no delay, get back on the gas as soon as possible, everything. So anyways, I've kind of approached it that way. And, obviously when you're starting out, you maybe don't have as much skill and you don't even know that you don't have as much skill. You're working with what you got at the time. And so I did that first track day. Things go really well. And I just remember I went four wheels off the track, but it was in a safe spot and it was like not a big deal. And that was kind of like the excitement of the day, but otherwise it was fine. And then, like I said, that big car accident happened that's unrelated to the track. And honestly, it wasn't my fault. A lady just ran a red light. It's just bad luck. And some people were thinking, man, would you even want to go to the track after that? And for me, I was like, I don't even remember the accident. I woke up in the hospital with a broken neck and a broken back. And so on one hand, you might say, well, yeah, maybe you shouldn't put yourself in a spot because you're physically compromised. But for me, I'm like, I literally don't even remember it. It's almost like you're in a dream and you wake up. It was the opposite. I was awake and then I feel like I'm in the dream, and like I wake up in the hospital. I'm like, what the hell? Anyways, so yeah, that was like a thing, but I was autocrossing 3 months after the accident. The doctor said I was fine as long as I could handle the pain. I remember going out the night before to an Amazon warehouse at late at night, so nobody's there. And I'm trying to can I even put my helmet on? That hurts. I just had the brace taken off my neck and ripping around. Like, can I handle the forces? And I'm like, yeah, it hurts, but I can do it. So I went out there that next day and took a lot of a leave and made it happen. So then, yeah, I did autocross pretty much for that year and had no concerns there. Then I go to the track and yeah, just by that point, it's been a year since the street car accident and I'm just going for it and things are going well. And I don't remember where this is in my order of events. I think so. I did a couple of track days at Thunderhill to start out. Things are going well. I went to Laguna. Things are going well. I want to say I went back to Laguna and I tied the track record. So I'm feeling pretty confident about myself at this juncture. And I think I might have also gotten the Thunderhill track record at this point, chassis record. So, like I've never really had an issue. I've gone off, but nothing's ever come of it. I get right back on. It's like a minor off, back on. They black flag you going, yeah, I know I was a little hot through there. I got it. Come back and just go attack the next lap. And I'm fine. So then I go to Sonoma, and Sonoma on the West Coast, I would say is kind of analogous to VIR, just from my experience playing VIR on a video game. But it's high speed. It's got walls everywhere. And if you go off, there's a fair chance that you're going to hit a wall, And I knew this going in, but there's also this like bravado of nothing's ever happened to me, and I've gotten some records, and I've never really fully lost control. The times that I've gone off have just been like I pushed a little hard, ran a little wide on the exit, and was able to get back on, and it was fine. So it was always like, yeah, just kind of simmer a little bit there, and I'll be okay. So Sonoma was cold that morning. It was like probably 40 degrees. I was on Goodyear 3R, which are known to, I honestly think they're worse than slicks in terms of heating up. And so I had a little squirrely moment with them on a couple of previous track days. So I was aware of that at that point. But so anyways, my buddy goes with me. He's a car guy. He has a FK8 and he's thinking about going to the track as a driver at some point. He's a big race fan, but he's never done it. So I'm like, jump in the car with me. I'll show you what it's all about. And first session, lap 5, and I right after the first corner, it's like a high speed corner. I want to say you're in it at about 115. It's turn 1. And then it's kind of like a descending radius corner. So you have to keep slowing down as you're at speed. And then it's setting up, it's a big, long left-hander up a hill. So elevation change, high speed, changing speeds. There's like a lot of variables. There's kind of a bump in there. And I don't even 100% know what went wrong. What I think went wrong, it was liftoff oversteer. I drove it in really deep, really fast, again, just kind of with this uber confidence. And then, you know, I'm like, I gotta slow down because this thing's kind of getting tight. And instead of it being a progressive slowdown, it was a real dramatic. I just like jump off the gas. I'm full throttle to no throttle at, you know, the limit of grip. And so my rear end just immediately starts to go. I tried to save it, couldn't save it. And I ended up into, I guess it would kind of be the outside wall of turn 2 or the inside wall of turn 1. Sideways, like I went into it backwards in the passenger side. So my buddy actually caught the brunt of it. And yeah, I mean, we just kind of went into it like diagonally sideways. I would say my right rear got the worst of it. The whole right side was screwed up and airbags and everything. And yeah, I felt bad, man. My buddy, I'm like trying to show him like, oh, this is really cool and you should do it and it's fun. And then 5 laps in, he's in the wall. And we're still good buddies, and I thank God that nothing bad happened. But he ended up driving me in his FK8. Me and my wife, we went to U-Haul. I didn't have a truck or anything, so we rented a U-Haul truck and a trailer, and then took it back and ended up getting that fixed. It took a long time because this was still kind of on the back end of COVID, where it was still like affecting everything, and most notably in our domain, the availability of parts. So it just took forever to get parts and took forever for this body shop to get the car put back together. And but yeah, the car wasn't totaled. They basically just had to replace the 2 doors and the quarter panel. Just basically the whole right side of the car was refreshed and the car was fine. Everything mechanically was okay. And so then I go out after that. It's probably like a 6 or 7 month process just to get the car back. And I finally get it back and I do a track day like a month later, and I wrecked it again. And I feel like on the surface it's not my fault, but I kind of put myself in a spot that maybe I shouldn't have been in. But basically I was just following a car real close, and he went off right ahead of me, and it was at Buttonwillow, which I don't know how much you guys have seen of it, but it's got a ton of dirt and like dust. More than I would call it dirt, I would call it dust. It's like real fine. And so he goes off and there's like a smoke screen. Can't see anything. It's intense. And not only that, all the dirt's kind of getting kicked onto the track at the same time. So I lose control. Again, kind of no fault of my own in the moment, other than to say I was maybe too close to this guy. I was trying to get him to point me by, you know, and I was catching this guy, and I'm like, get out of the way. And then I think my presence rattled him. He goes off because he's probably overdriving it. And then I just have no time to react. So lost it, regather it. Once I come out of the cloud, I'm facing perpendicular to like this access road. So I'm going dead at it, but it's like running left to right in front of me. I go off into the dirt, straight ahead, everything's fine. But the problem is with this really fine sand, when it's windy, it all just kind of washes away. So there's like this essentially crevice that I go into, and then the road is there, and effectively it becomes a speed bump at 70 miles an hour on a car that's like about 3 inches off the ground.
Ooh.
With the chassis mounted splitter. So it just rips the splitter off, rips the bumper off, the oil coolers. It was just everything, just like the front end's kind of destroyed. I was able to limp it back. I caught air, like the suspension was destroyed. All 4 wheels were bent. It was just like a really frontal, like I remember watching the video and I'm like, huh, I felt like I got punched in the stomach. And yeah, I was able to drive it all the way back to the garage that I had been renting that day and crazy enough, I drove the car home. I worked on it for about 8 hours at the track. Obviously, the track day was done, but we were able to like get the oil situation fixed. I had the transmission fluid had all come out of it because one of the lines busted, but I was able to get a little hose from AutoZone, and yeah, just drove home without a bumper and made it back. I wasn't really affected by either one of those, what I would say, which is going to be different than the next story. When I crashed at Sonoma, we didn't leave immediately, and I watched the session go. I was standing on the bridge watching the cars come under me, and all I could think is, God damn it, I want to be out there right now. Like if I was a race car driver and our team had a backup car, put me in the car, I'm ready to go. I know I screwed up. I want to fix it. I want to get right back out there. So I was bummed about it. And then Buttonwillow happened, and I was bummed because I had waited for my car to be ready for 6 months. I get back out there and crash on the second session. Just kind of a bummer. And I'm just thinking, God dang it, man. I'm like right back. It's going to be another God knows how long until I have the car. But again, I was just kind of like, that's all I'm thinking. I just want the car to be right. I'm ready to go. I'm not really scared. And then a couple of years goes by and I've had no issues after that. I hadn't even put a tire off. Everything been really clean. I improved the chassis lap record at Laguna by a significant margin, like 4 seconds over the next couple of years. I get even better at Thunder Hill. I do not go back to Sonoma because the track itself was like intimidating, just knowing that if something goes wrong, I'm probably on the wall, but I wasn't scared on track. I just was like, I don't want to do that track. And then, yeah, basically fast forward to Laguna, which I'd only ever had success on. I'd gone 2 tires off a couple of times here or there, again, kind of pushing a little bit too much. And this is back in April of this year. So like 10 months or something like that. 8 months. I don't know. And yeah, basically it had been rainy that day. It's on the coast. It's a coastal track, maybe 20 minutes inland from the coast. So it gets like a lot of moisture overnight. Clouds come in and stuff. And then it'll be sunny, but it's got to all burn off. And the day had been fine. Day's going good. Actually, I had my son ride a session with me. Then I had my daughter ride a session. This is the first time they'd ever gone to the track. And then the third session on the day was the time attack. And I was in it, and I had done time attack with this organization before and done really well at this track. That's when I got the improved the chassis lap record. So yeah, I'm just going out there with full confidence. And yeah, basically I just overcooked turn 3 a little bit. Again, 2 tires off. It's nothing too crazy, but it was because it had been wet. The dirt is wet. It's not just dirt, it's also dirt and wetness that is on my tires now. And I had awareness of this. But the problem is in this time attack, like I had 2 cars and everybody out there is fast and they're right on me. And there's not a whole lot of time between turn 3 and turn 4. And my initial thought is like, I need to slow down because my tires are not going to stick, obviously. But then I look in the mirrors and I see these cars and I'm like, but if I just like slow down too much, these guys might just hit me, or I might cause them to try to have to evade me and wreck. So it's all these like split-second decisions. So I try to like basically just coast through it. Like I just let off the gas. I try to let everything slow down. And I was probably about 10 to 15 miles an hour slower than I would normally be through there. It wasn't enough. I lost the rear end right away. As soon as I enter, rear end starts to slide because the tires are wet. And then I counter it and I'm trying to save it. And I actually overcorrected, which I'd never had. Whenever I've lost it, I've never had that. And I think part of it was like the moisture was burning off. So I go from like no grip to all of a sudden I have a ton of grip again. And except for I'm angling the wrong way. So I don't straighten it out. I like whip it the other way. And so now I'm going at the outside wall. And yeah, I hit pretty much head on at about 55 miles an hour into the tires. And luckily it was tires. About 10 more feet, it would have been just straight into the concrete. That was a little like, whoa, that was close. But I remember in the moment, like the fraction of a second leading up to the wall, I'm just thinking, like, this is going to hurt. because I'm looking straight. I'm going right dead at it, and I know I'm about to like stop. And I did, boom. But luckily, tire barriers are pretty darn incredible. Airbag goes off, everything's all effed up. But I was like, I'm alive. I mean, really, in the moment leading up to it, like you said, you see that ditch coming, and you're thinking this is about to get wild. And that's where I'm at mentally. Like, I'm just gonna hit this wall dead on. This is gonna be bad.
Yep.
And but to my surprise, in the moment, I was like, I think I'm okay. And yeah, the tow truck came, and I was like, they're like, are you okay? And I'm like, I actually think I'm okay. I'm all right. They had me ride in the ambulance, just precautionary, and they kind of gave me what I would say is like a concussion test, just asking me a bunch of questions and trying to see how I was in conversation. I was totally coherent. I was totally fine. I was just kind of rattled over it all, just bummed. And yeah, so now my kids are there. My wife is there. This isn't her first rodeo, but so on one hand, she knows what to expect. On the other hand, you never know what to expect. And I get out of the ambulance, and I think from their perspective too, it's weird because you just see cars go by and you can't see the whole track because it's a road course, and then they see black flags and they see everybody start to pull into the pits except for the car that they want to see. And she starts to like, what the hell? Like she's already like, God damn it. So she's freaking out. I got back and you could tell she's just kind of on edge, and she's not mad at me. It's nothing like that. It's just concerned, just like, oh my God. And yeah, I got out and it's fine. That turned into the FL5 like 4 or 5 days later. Track insurance came in. That's the first time I totaled the car. Other than that, it was all repairs. This was a total. Do I get another FK8? No. FL5. Let's just try to do it. I don't want to have somebody else's used car. And yeah, so then I go back. That was in April. Laguna. So I had gone to Thunder Hill. I was trying to. It was going to be my first track day, but I had installed my secondary radiator and I kind of screwed up. There was some air in it, so I like was overheating on lap 2, like right away, and I couldn't figure it out. But yeah, it turns out I just didn't bleed the system. So I don't even count that as my first track day. I couldn't even make like more than one hot lap, really, and then I'd have to pull off the track. So then I go to Laguna. When was that? It was a couple months ago. And back to the scene of the crime. I would say at Thunder Hill, like I was a little apprehensive, but I wasn't scared. But for Laguna, I was. And what's weird is that I've never been scared of Laguna, and I've always had a lot of confidence there, and I've never had problems until I did have a problem. And yeah, kind of what you guys said, like I was way more cautious than I've ever been. Like that superpower was gone. And that was weird for me. I've never had to battle fear. I've had fear going into an event, and then for whatever reason, like I said, superpower or
yeah, it's one of those.
not.
It's just not going to happen to me, kind of things, is what it is. Like it's everyone else.
Oh, absolutely.
Not me. Until it's you.
Yeah. Until it's me. And I don't know why that after those first 2 incidents, I'd be lying to say that I had zero fear like the very next time I was on the track, but it went away really quick. Like I pretty much midways through a session, I was back into attack mode. The first session back, I'm like, I got it. I'm fine. I just needed a couple laps to kind of like get my bearings, and then it all went away. I was attacking. This time was different. It took me multiple sessions, and even still, I would say I never within that day got to where I would say I don't know why I'm even sounding like I'm hesitant. I definitely did not get back. I was very cautious through not only the corner that I wrecked in, but most corners. I was braking much earlier, over braking probably, slow through the corners. I still ran a good time. A few years ago, it would have been the chassis lap record. Like I still ran decently fast, but I was like 3.5 seconds off of my best time, which, as you guys know, is like quite a margin to go from 134.5 to 138 flat. It's still like I'm still going decently fast, but there's a lot more to be desired. Um, but I was okay. I went into that event much different than any other event. Every other event I ever went into, I wanted a time. I wanted to get this thing. I wanted to get a record. There was a absolute directive. And I would tell other people to sound modest. Oh, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Internally, I was like, no, I want to get this darn thing and I want to get it by as much as I can. I need to show these people. This time I was like, I have zero goals. I'm like, I know I'll break 140 just because I could do that on a warm-up lap. But beyond that, I have no idea. I just hope that I bring the car home in one piece. I hope that I can kind of find a little bit of confidence and rhythm and flow. I was going in with a lot of fear, and like, even I'd never had this, but like, should I even be doing this? Like the night before, I'm thinking, man, am I like, am I making the wrong decision even being here right now? And that's new, to me. And then I'm doing it and I started to feel a little more confident, but there was still like a lot of reservation. Um, I would say by the end of it, I felt good, but like James said, I actually heeded the advice in my head, which again, I don't know that I would have done in the past, and he didn't do in that moment. But I thought, I didn't do the last session. I said, I don't need to do it. I'm okay. Car's in one piece. If I go back home, my main goal is to go back in one piece, run a moderately fast time and feel okay with that. And mission accomplished. I don't need more today. And I've never been in that way. I've always like, I want more. If I got a one whatever, I wanted a one whatever better. I wanted something a little bit faster always. So that's been weird for me in thinking about this whole thing. Is like, I've never, again, I say it not as an element of bravado. I say it almost like anti myself in a way of like this superpower. I say it almost sarcastically because it has been part of why I've been really fast, but it also has been my downfall. And in a way, that superpower, I don't want to say it's gone, but it's not the same right now. I do think that I suspect that if I was to go back to the track one or two more times, I could feel it coming. I could feel it coming on within that day. But what's different than all the other times is it didn't happen middle of the first session back. It didn't happen in 4 sessions time. It was incrementally happening piece by piece.
That's that's an interesting point. The first time I had fun at an HPDE was after I crashed because I thought I had something to prove and I thought that it was important. And not to say that I wasn't having fun, but I was more in like, I'm in this complete focus zone. I need to figure this out. I need to understand how all this works. I want to be the best there is at HPD.
Very serious kind of
mindset. I say it to myself now. I'm like, you're an idiot. Like you want to be the best at HPDE? Okay. That's really going home with the participation trophy. Like, hey, I was there. Here's the t-shirt and the sticker. Oh, I got 5 minutes left, guys, before this battery dies. But this is going to end up in a part 2. This is all really good information, but I'm different now. Like a train happens, I don't care. I don't care if trains happen. Somebody gives me a bully pass. I think it's kind of funny. I give somebody a bully pass. I did it on purpose and to be funny. I'm just having fun with it at this point, and I do sacrifice sections on the track to keep myself safe. And will I build back from that? Yeah, when I was out there with Ben from Gears and Gasoline, I was following the White Rabbit. Damn those white cars. And
well, and part of that is like, that's a known entity. That's a popular guy. If I could keep up with him, right? That you've got to be thinking that in reality.
Well, I think
what if I beat the Gears and Gasoline guy that does grid life events? That'd be cool.
Well, no, I think I was actually ahead of him when I did the time. Because him and I were being very polite about pointing. It's like, okay, so when there's X amount of pressure, just here, you go on by, and then in a couple laps, give it back to me. We were allowing that to play. And I didn't go out there with the mindset of like, I wasn't really trying to prove anything to him. I was more than anything, the guy just wanted a good lap, and I was trying to provide him some defense, and I did.
So you felt like an obligation to make it a successful thing for him.
Yeah, I helped move us into a different group that wasn't seeing as much traffic. Got the blessing from the guys at TSCC. We moved to that group, and that's where it happened. And on his best lap, I was running defense for him, and on my best lap, he was running defense for me. So
Hmm.
it just it worked out that way. But it was fun. Like we came back and we were like, yes, we did it. Like we got a decent time in. And the thing is, like thinking back
Hmm.
on all of it, I wasn't even really pushing the car at all. Not like I used to. Like I
Smooth
said,
is fast.
It was flowing.
yeah,
Smooth is fast. When you stop thinking about it and you stop overdriving and you stop pushing for that thing you want so bad,
it happens.
it just happens. It all connects. It all comes together, and you realize, like, wow. Then you watch the video, like, wow, that was the most uneventful lap I've ever driven, but it was the fastest.
The easiest lap should be the fastest lap. I think that's the best point, James. Guys, I literally have maybe 60 seconds left of battery on this thing. If it would be cool with you, I'd really appreciate a part two on this because I think that we've definitely dug up some dirt that people probably who have maybe have just gone through this or just gone through this recently or may go through this in the future probably need to hear about because all of us cope in different ways. And I really appreciate having the both of you on. I wish you guys, I just want you to have fun at your next events. How about that? Let's keep it fun. And
It's all about having fun.
yep. And if that fastest lap happens for you, you deserved it and you earned it.